Hello, welcome to the Overactive Brain, episode 4. I just wanted to do a quick introduction video just to explain the purpose of this video. I interview a friend, Lewis Hanson, who at the beginning of this year decided to move away from the UK with his girlfriend just for a year, just to kind of shake off the cobwebs and go and do something with themselves. Go and explore the world before it's too late. They're bogged down with finances and kids, etc. And I just wanted to take the opportunity, now that he's actually 6 months into that journey, to just explore what it was like, what differences there are between the UK and Canada. So they moved to Vancouver, which is on the southwest of on the coast of Canada. And I just really wanted to take the opportunity to practice my interview skills. So I want to speak less and listen more, try and probe and get exciting and juicy information out of him. I do feel that it was cut short prematurely. This is an hour conversation, but I do feel that we were just starting to loosen up and actually get to some quite interesting subjects, I'd say, in some way deeply psychological, which was kind of what I wanted to do because that's the field that I'm going into. But this is just a practice for me, really, and I'm sure there'll be many more interviews just like this where I learn to speak to people less and listen more whilst actually getting to the heart of the topic. But feedback, as always, welcome below. Anything you think I should continue doing, things you think I should avoid doing. But this is just a bit of fun, nothing more, nothing less. And I look forward to doing many more of these in the near future. Maybe get the opportunity to get onto the topics I felt were missing from the first interview with Lewis. But without further ado, I present to you Lewis Hanson.
Well, I've hit record.
Okay.
How do I look?
You look spectacular. How about me?
So when did you go out? Because Brit's mentioned that you're possibly coming back around September, October. Is that right?
Yes. So we got.
Seems to have happened really quick. Flown by. January.
And we're leaving Vancouver on 2nd of September and going to Thailand for like 3 weeks to a month. I'm going to see a bit of Cambodia too, which would be nice.
Nice.
Mm.
So was it always planned to come back in September/October, or is it just open-ended and you thought we would just go until you can't take it anymore?
Well, yeah, we've got like 2-year visas, but I always have to come back for October because one of my friends is getting married.
Oh, I think you mentioned that before. Yeah.
It's similar. It was a good sort of milestone to make it to then. And then we thought we might come back, but I don't see the need to come back, you know. Like, by that point, I'd achieved everything I wanted to here. So, yeah.
Which was what? What did you go out there to achieve? Well, just for the benefit of the people who don't know you as well as I do, obviously.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
I am 30 years old.
30. So you're still a little baby. Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that. I feel it.
But you decided when? When did you decide that you were going to make this ballsy move and go and experience something outside your comfort zone and make the actual move to do something about it in January this year?
It's always something I've wanted to do, like for years and years and years. And then I think I was pretty unhappy with my job like last year. And that was when I thought I need to do this now, because if I don't, I'm going to be like 50 or 60 years old and I'm really going to regret not going. So, yeah, I guess it was around summer last year that we were like, yeah, let's do it.
So you thought that you played with the idea for many years, but you actually decided to do something.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I'd always been like jealous of friends that went and did it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought for myself it would be like unattainable to go and do that, which is just nonsense. Like anyone can go and do it. You just have to want to do it, I guess. That's the difference.
Yeah, I guess one of the prerequisites is that you can't have too much debt or kids that require round-the-clock attention. You know, if they were adults,
exactly.
probably would get away with it. I think.
Well, some people nowadays are taking their children traveling, aren't they? I think that's pretty interesting. I don't know much about it because I don't have children, but I don't know. I guess it's going to give them a good worldly knowledge doing something like that when they're still young.
Age they are, if they're probably make them more confident. I don't think they'd have much memory of it, but I think you'd probably improve their confidence, taking them outside their comfort zone and meeting people, different backgrounds, different languages, and so on and so forth, that they would become more confident individuals. But I don't think that they would specifically remember it if they're.
Well, yeah, if they're like 1 or 2, they're not going
to about the age of 8. I don't have much memory from before the age of 8. They're just episodic memories, really, rather than anything substantial.
Yeah, fleeting memories, I guess.
So why did you choose Canada?
I think just the mountains and the trees, and it's obviously the culture doesn't seem too dissimilar. Like when you're on the outside looking in. I mean, that changed when I got here. I was like, "Wow, this is like," it was a bit of a culture shock, I think, at first when we got here. But it was obviously they speak English for the main part in Canada, especially where we are. So that obviously helps. I mean, if I had to go somewhere and learn a language, it would just make things a lot harder. And then, obviously, Canada being a Commonwealth country, it's easier for when you're 18 to 30, you can get a working holiday visa quite easily.
So if you'd have left it until next year, then it might not have been so easy.
Yeah, I would have had to have got like temporary residency or something, which would have been a lot harder to do.
Even just to do a year's work experience, or just to go out there and travel around.
Yeah, like you'd either have to come on a tourist visa and have a lot of money behind you, or temporary residency, and you'd still need like a lot of money behind you and skills and probably a job lined up. So the working holiday visa is the easiest way to do it.
Well, before I hit record, I was just asking you about the different parts because I couldn't remember exactly where you were. But then having looked on the map, I can recall that that's where you were going, because you're on the top left-hand corner, aren't you, really?
Yeah. Bottom left.
Sorry, bottom left.
Yeah, it's just above the border with America.
That's right. I think it's because there's a big lump of water in between that I tend to forget. Yeah, that's right. Bottom left.
Yeah.
Forgive me, but how come you didn't go somewhere? What was it about that particular part? Was it the fact that they did speak English? Because obviously Canada is well known for its French population. As you know, what did that attract you in any way?
Probably like what sums it up best is when I was at work here, I met an older gentleman who was from Manchester, and he emigrated here many, many years ago. And he came up to me and he was like, "Don't you reckon in Vancouver they've got the world by its balls?" And I thought, like, I did think, "What do you mean?" He was like, "You got beaches, you got mountains, you've got the whole city to go out and do whatever you want. Like, it just has everything. Like, it literally caters for everyone." They're so spoiled here; it's ridiculous in terms of like natural beauty and things to do.
Well, you have quite a connection with nature because you were a tree surgeon for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
You decided, I think, was it just because of the safety aspect of it, or you just got a bit bored with doing that you decided to go into I remember we were having a conversation and you wanted to go and do some qualifications at college or university so that you actually what was the last role you had? What job did you stop doing before?
It was a tree surveyor, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's providing like consultancy services to large companies on how they should better manage their tree stock, essentially.
So you're an outdoorsy person anyway, aren't you?
And then I've worked outdoors for years and years and years, and
then a couple of years before that, you got into your photography.
Photography,
sunsets, trees, landscapes, that sort of thing, which
that's it,
via your blog, we've all been kept up to date with the different places that you've gone. The picture that I noticed on your WhatsApp, is it WhatsApp or it could be your Skype? I'm not sure, but yeah, the views are incredible. I think when you think back here in England, we've got the Lake District, which is beautiful, but it is limited by its height. It can only be as magnificent as its highest peak. and I think that has that's always something that we're never going to have.
I don't know, dude.
So once you got into Scotland, Scotland is just as breathtaking. And when we went there, it might have been at the beginning of this year. I really do forget. I think it was at the beginning of this year. Yeah, it was breathtaking. But obviously, looking at the photographs and the videos that you've been making while you've been over there, would you say it's on another level?
I don't know, to be honest. I actually said to Claudia the other day, that's my partner, for those who don't know. I said to her the other day that as much as I love it here, and the scenery is epic, like you're quite right in saying that. Like the Lake District has something, like I've just got a pull towards it. I don't know what it is. I think it's probably like the home country pride a little bit, and it is truly beautiful there, I think. And I'm like a big fan of like the rolling hills and trees and all that we have in England, and here they don't have that. Like it's a totally different landscape entirely. It is beautiful though, don't get me wrong. It's just different, I think.
What was compare your preconceptions to what you actually experienced when you were out there?
Preconceptions. In terms of actually us traveling, I thought we'd do a lot more actual traveling, if you know what I mean. Like, I thought when people went traveling, they just went and they didn't work and they just traveled around, like bummed around for a bit, epic road trips all the time, all of this, all of that. But unless you're like a millionaire, you can't live that lifestyle here. Like, it's so expensive. You can't do it. So, I mean, we've been pretty fortunate. Like, we saved some money to come here with, and we were able to take like a month and a half off of work and like really explore the area. And we've definitely done our fair share of traveling around, but it's not how other people may perceive. And that was probably the biggest thing I noticed. Like, especially when I thought about when my friends went traveling. I remember thinking, oh, they've done this, they've done that, they've gone off and like been to all these amazing places. But because of like, you do have to have a job here. That's your weekends. That's what they're reserved for, is to go and see the place. It's not. It's easy to see things on social media and perceive it as something that it isn't.
Yeah, think back before you actually went out there. What research had you actually done? You know, I think we looked at it once, didn't we? Looking at the average price of things, but how much research can you actually do before you go to prepare yourself? Do you feel like you did enough? Do you feel like it was relevant?
Yeah, I think
did it not help?
But at the same time, it's never going to beat being here for like learning about it all. Like, I think looking at the prices of things, it helped, but it's still, unless you physically got that item in your hand, like it doesn't really, it's not tangible, I don't think, for me anyway. Yeah, but the cost of living here is probably, it's comparative to Surrey. It's not too dissimilar, but some things like fruits and vegetables here are insanely expensive.
Really?
Whereas other things like sugary drinks and chocolate bars and that are really cheap, like a lot cheaper than they are at home.
So they've got their priorities right.
Well, depending on how you look at it.
Well, how did describe your average Canadian out there?
Your average Canadian? I don't know, mate. Like, they're all really. I did think at first that they were a lot more. I'll probably get hung, drawn, and quartered for saying this, but a lot more Americanized than I thought they would be.
They are more.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. I mean, they're very, very proud of like being from Canada, and they do want to differentiate themselves from the US. But when I first got here, I was like, wow, this is like seeing American movies and stuff, if you know what I mean.
As in what? Describe it. Describe what you were seeing that made you feel like
like
America.
it's all like the grid system, like how the roads are all built. It's all on a grid, like is there. They obviously sound very similar, like in their
They
accents.
deny it, but
I know,
they
yeah.
say
I
that
mean,
we sound the same as a Scotsman, but
yeah. I mean, they're terrible themselves here. Like the amount of times people ask me if I'm Australian, it's ridiculous.
really,
Like,
really.
it's like they've never heard an Englishman before.
So how far are you from? Because you're just having a look at it on the map. I mean, you obviously are in the middle of the city, but you're not that far really from the roads that start to take you up into the mountainous regions, into all the beauty locations. How long does it
Yeah.
take you to get out the city? You know, how many minutes driving is there before you feel like you're no longer in Vancouver?
I'd say in about 35 to 40 minutes, I could have driven to a good mountain resort.
Oh, so that's to get to the resort.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
30, 35 minutes.
Mhm.
You're there, which is pretty good. They're blessed with the North Shore Mountains, is like the range that is. You can pretty much see them everywhere in Vancouver, the North Shore Mountains. And yeah, you can be up there in about 35 minutes. I mean, they are really outdoorsy people, so a lot of the time you're not going to be on your own. You'll be sharing the trail with heaps of other people. And the North Shore Mountains too, they have incredible views of Vancouver.
Mhm.
Well, they really do. So you you just feel a bit more removed from it. Maybe not so much out in the wild, but then there's a lot of backcountry trails here too, where if you go on, like you can access it on the North Shore Mountains. Like they have like the real famous, easily accessible peaks, but then you can go further, and then you really feel like you're in the middle of nowhere.
So do you feel like you've been to enough of these locations whilst you've been over there? Because obviously with your photography, and plus you didn't go over there to
Yeah,
do work and eat
no,
out.
of
Now
course
you
not.
went over there to experience Canada, which I should imagine half of that experience is has got to be experienced up at altitude. Do you feel like you've done enough with what is it now? 6 months you've been out there?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty happy. I mean, since we got here, we've just been packing our weekends and days off. Like, this is probably one of the first weekends I've not really done a lot
Mhm.
because although, like, yeah, it's a working holiday, like, I'm definitely busier here than I ever was at home, just doing stuff like constantly. Um, so I am definitely happy with what we've seen and done, like for sure. Um, you can't do everything as well. Like you do have to prioritize. Like I was saying earlier, it's so easy before you're there to go, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to drive here, I'm going to drive there. When you're actually here, you realise like life gets in the way. You know, you still got to
Yeah.
work, you've still got other commitments, so you can't just take off for
Are you
3 weeks.
working Monday to Friday, or are you having to work weekends as well?
Just Monday to Friday. Yeah, I won't
both
work weekends. No, Claudia does work weekends because she works in like a sports bar, so it's their busiest time. But it's it seems all right because she can make a lot of money in tips because they have a big tips culture here. So
Right, yeah. So they pay a basic wage.
yeah, the minimum wage for servers is terrible. It's like $12 an hour, which is £6 or £7. But then busy nights, you can bring home like $250. You know, which is
Really?
yeah, not bad at all. That
You're
is.
calling them bucks. So
Yeah.
it's a bit like local lingo there.
No, it's just you just take it on. Like it's funny, like we're so united but divided by the English language. Certain words they just don't understand, like at all. Or if you say a word slightly differently, they'll look at you really, really funny. Like like 25 cents, they call them quarters.
Right,
And
yeah.
we have to go to a laundrette to do our washing, and you need a load of quarters to do it. So if I pop into a garage or a garage, as they call it here,
Garage.
I buy something and say, "Can I have my change in quarters?" And they're like, "What?" But they just don't understand me saying quarters.
So what is the pronunciation then?
I don't know. I'm yet to find it out. Like I was even going like, "I need quarters. Give me some quarters." Like putting on a terrible American accent. In the end, I just asked for 25 cents.
So have you noticed yourself saying anything slightly differently? Have you? Because I tend to do that.
Definitely.
I do that, especially in Mediterranean countries. My accent and pronunciation can change on the spur of the moment when I'm talking to a local. So I should imagine that I would be quite terrible after 6 months being in
It's
Canada.
hard not to pick it up. Like little things like if you ask somebody for crisps, they don't know what you're talking about. Like it's chips here. And then if you called fries chips, they wouldn't again, they'd be like, what? And like they don't call petrol, it's gas. And diesel is also they don't really have diesel here. Like it's weird. You have to go to specific like garages to get diesel. A lot of them don't even have it. It's just pure gas.
So they're all using petrol cars.
Yeah.
Oh, cars or trucks.
Trucks, yeah. There's quite a few like big 4x4s and trucks and stuff here, but apparently in Alberta, which we've not been to yet, we're going there in 2 weeks. Apparently there, it's like their culture is big trucks, so that'll be quite amusing to see. Definitely.
So where's the furthest you've been then from comfort zone, Vancouver? Have you been anywhere else?
We dropped into the States for a few days. That was pretty good. Comfort zone wise, though, I felt more comfortable there probably than I did in Canada.
Really?
Because as soon as we crossed over the border, it's like classic, like everything you imagine. As I was saying earlier, I was surprised by how Americanized Canada was. When I actually crossed the border, I was totally wrong because it's like straight away casinos either side, like the biggest flag you've ever seen, like big American flag, like huge gun shops, casinos, like so much fast food, and you're like, yeah, this is definitely America.
So where did you go? Seattle is probably about an hour's drive south of you, or is that wrong?
It's probably about 2.5 hours drive. Seattle is because it's so huge. It's really hard to judge driving distances. Yeah, it's probably about 2.5 hours drive. We only drove through it because we went to Olympic National Park.
So where did you go? Sorry,
Olympic National Park.
Right.
Which is sort of down and then round, and it faces the bottom of Vancouver Island. But you have to go like that as the easiest way, rather than going to Vancouver Island, driving across, and getting another ferry. The easiest way is to just drive.
There must be quite a lot of national parks over there.
A vast amount, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot. Like it's so spaced out there. It's unbelievable. Like there's just huge. Just from the little amount we saw, when we went from Olympic National Park down to Portland, Oregon, and that's about 5 or 6 hours drive. But just in between those two, there's just stretches of nothing. Right, it's pretty crazy.
Is it quite cheap to get about?
In America, it is. Yeah, the gas prices are like so cheap. Like we were filling up our car for it was about 30 quid, which is so. And it's a big it's a 3.5 litre V6. Like,
is that what you have? A 3.5 litre V6? Yeah. Wow.
Which I thought was ridiculous. When we went and bought it, I said to the guy, I was like, "Oh, what litre it is?" And he said, "Oh, 3.5 litre." And I was like, "Oh, that's a lot." And he was like, "How are you going to get up any of the hills if it's any less?"
They want to see the vehicles that they use in Italy. They get up just as steeper mountains, and they've got these tiny little 900cc Vespa
little Twingos.
Yeah, so they manage it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but they just love a big car here. They really do.
So what are you doing? Because you said that you're actually doing tree surgeon. You're a tree surgeon, or
no? So it's working for they're like a garden maintenance kind of company. But the department I'm in is all trees and hedges, but they don't do anything big, which is, as far as I'm concerned, that's pretty decent. Like, it's a lot. The work's easier than what I was used to at home doing. It's good. I didn't want to come here and work like super hard, if you know what I mean.
So how many people do you work with? Do you work on your own, or do you work with? Is there a bunch of you?
There's 3 of us, including myself. But sometimes like it could be just two of us, or it could just be me on my own. Like so the day is always quite varied, which is nice.
And how did they take to you?
It's weird. It's almost like you'd assume like seeing the bigger side of the company, like the whole of it, rather than just our department. It's almost as if Gord, the boss, drives down to the airport and just opens his van and ushers in new like immigrants to the country.
What they do?
No, it's almost like they do though. Like there's a couple of other Brits, Hungarian, somebody from France. I think they've had a few Mexicans over the years. So yeah, it's a pretty multicultural place to work, which is good.
So is that just because it's low paid and Canadians don't want to do that, or they just because
I don't really know. The actual wage here is terrible. Like the minimum wage is not good, and it's not in keeping with the cost of living like at all.
No.
It's doable, but you have to be very sensible.
So if you're a single occupant, it would be difficult. But if there was two of you, then that just makes it a bit more manageable.
Yeah. You couldn't have like a one bed apartment on your own, like unless you're earning good money. Like it wouldn't be feasible. Like all your money would go on rent basically. So
what are you staying in?
So we have what they call a basement suite here.
Mm-hmm.
Most houses here do have basements,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously it's good income for the house owner to turn it into a little flat. So we've got one of those. It costs about $1,600 a month, which is
£900.
900 quid, yeah, roughly. Which is probably similar to at home.
So was it 1 or 2 bed?
Just one bed.
One bed.
But everything is included, like everything, like Wi-Fi, all the furniture, even down to cutlery and stuff. Well, that's quite a common thing here to get that.
So there's only daylight coming into where you are?
Oh yeah, got a big window in front of us. Because of the way they built it, sort of the sun comes down, if that makes sense. There is like a bit of an open space, like it's got its own entrance and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty good.
When's the last time you sent a blog out?
Wow, a long time ago. I got an email today about my website saying it's expired. So I was sort of reading that thinking, oh, do I want to renew it, don't I? Like, I'd like to, but it's like £200, and at the moment, like, that's money I could spend
What's that for the year?
Yeah, for the year.
What website do you use?
Squarespace.
So I guess it's a bit like Wix, is it? It's just a subscription-based website. Yeah.
Just all drag and drop to build stuff, and it's really simple to use.
Yeah, well, obviously keep your photographs going up online, and
definitely, yeah. I think with like Instagram and stuff though, like I just put all my images on there, and that's enough for me at the moment. Perhaps when I'm home, I'll start the blog, which seems crazy. You think, oh, I'm in bloody Canada, like it's the perfect time to be writing blogs and stuff. But I found rather than spend like 8-9 hours writing a blog, I'd actually rather just be out enjoying myself, like not having to worry about it. I've also sort of taken a real sort of bit of a time out with the photography too, because it does get in the way of things, and I don't want to. I'm happy with coming away with memories, if you know what I mean, rather than amazing images. Like, definitely, I don't want to live just looking through the lens.
Yeah, well, you went over there for a life experience rather than it wasn't anything at all predicated on the photography side, was it?
Nah, I mean it's a bit of a long trip, isn't it? A long photography trip. If you wanted to just, obviously, you know, I've still done a lot, like quite a bit of it. Summertime, I always have a slump with it anyway because I can't be bothered to get up for like a 4:35 sunrise. I'm just not going to do that. So we'll see. Perhaps in the autumn, I'll probably pick it back up again.
So what do you do during the week then? Your typical day? So you work until the same working hours?
Well, it's around 4:35. Sometimes a little bit later. Sometimes it could be 2 o'clock. Like, it just depends how the day pans out. But
Mhm.
more often than not, it's about 5.
What do you do? What are evenings in the week like? What do you do?
Evenings
Do you
in the week consist of coming home and chilling out. But sometimes, we might pop out for dinner or go to a bar or go catch a movie or something. But it's mainly weekends that we sort of do things like go for hikes or what have you.
How would you compare it to London? So if you were to find yourself living in wherever, Kensington or in Tottenham Court Road for 6 months,
Yeah.
how do you compare Vancouver to London? What are the differences and what are the similarities?
That is a good question. I might not be the best person to ask because I hate London. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of like I don't want to say a small town guy, but I've never lived in a city before. So I definitely struggled with that at first when we came here. There is a lot less people here than in London, in Vancouver, but I think it's smaller. Like the actual downtown and the central elements of Vancouver aren't as vast as London.
Mm-hmm.
Or it doesn't seem to be that way anyway. I could be completely wrong. It's very. I know London's multicultural, but here's next level. I think there's a huge Chinese population here, like massive, to the point where so where we live, there's a main road like a block away called Victoria Drive, and around 41st Avenue and Victoria Drive is the area we live. And there's a huge Chinese population there. And I remember on our first day, me and Claudia walked to go and get some groceries, and we were the only non-Asian people, like the entire area. Yeah, we were like, "What have we done? Like, have we come to China? Have we come to Canada?" I didn't realize it was like that, but yeah, there's a lot of different cultures here, which is pretty cool. It makes going out to eat really interesting. Definitely. So I'd say it's got a bigger ethnicity range than London, probably. What else has it got? It's got
Also,
beaches.
food and has beaches.
Yeah. Well, that's what's so good. You could be on a mountaintop and you could drive to a beach in about 40 minutes.
And what's the temperature like? What's the weather like at the beach?
It's pretty good. The climate is very similar to England, like on the west coast here.
Mm-hmm.
Which a lot of people find surprising because you think of Canada in the winter, you think of it being a really harsh, frigid place. But on the west coast, it's not that bad. I mean, it's usually when we got here in January, it didn't really drop below 1 or 2 degrees. Didn't really get much colder than that. And the summers probably range from 25 to 30 degrees every day. So very similar to England at the moment.
Yeah, but you mentioned the word every day.
Well,
that's something
true.
that
It does rain here a lot though, which a lot of people would say, "Oh, you're an Englishman, you should be used to it." But the rain here is something else. It'll rain all day long, it won't stop. And apparently this year it's not even rained that much, which I guess it hasn't. But when it does rain, it pours.
Mm-hmm. So what do you do at the weekends then? So when you got time off, if you're not going around the mountains, what's it like
I mainly spend my
London?
weekends
You've
in the
got
mountains.
a million different places to go. You people who live in London won't get bored, but for someone who's never been before, how would you compare Vancouver to say London? And I'm using London as a comparison because it's probably the only major city I really know well enough to be able to do a comparison.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of events here, similar to London, but in the summer, you'll find your average Vancouverite will be outdoors, as much as possible. So there's always a lot of outdoor events. There's a lot of big parks, around and about. You've got Stanley Park, which is massive. There's the path that goes all the way around it, and that's about 6 miles, around, and that sort of it hugs the sea line so that you can walk the sea wall, it's called. You'll find people there like running, rollerblading, out on their bikes, like having a stroll. So yeah, there's a ton of outdoor activities. In the winter, again, most of your average like person from Vancouver will spend their weekends on the ski slopes. They're just real outdoorsy people. Well, they live for the like being outdoors. So even in the city, there's all the opportunities to go to a big park and chill out and feel like you're a bit away from the city, if you know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
If you Stanley Park and that.
Well, like one thing, I guess, because you mentioned at the beginning, obviously you were a bit bored with work and you decided that you should make the move to go to Canada now. I guess I think one of the things that must have pushed you was the fact that you were 30, so it made the whole process a lot easier.
Yeah.
But how do you feel now? Have you thought about what it's going to be like coming back here? Do you feel like you've let off steam? Do you feel like you've achieved what the trip was about? How do you, because you don't come across as someone, you come across to me as Lewis. You seem exactly the same. You don't seem frustrated. You don't seem like you're in a massive hurry to come back. Your body language is quite relaxed.
That's just me though, bro.
Yeah.
I could be under extreme amounts of stress and I'd be like that, you know.
I think someone who's
Chill
been
out.
this far away from home for as long as you have you done anything like this before? What's the
No,
longest
no,
you've been outside the UK?
2 weeks probably
2
before
weeks
this.
on holiday. So 6 months.
Yeah.
And you seem quite chill about
I
it.
think you have to be. You couldn't be uptight and come here, I don't think. Or do something like this because it can be very stressful. It really can. I feel like I've been constantly planning and organising and booking things for like the last 6 months.
Well, I was
You
going to
have
ask you, what do you think that you've done to prevent it from happening with you? Because people, I mean, from the career essentially that I've left, people move overseas permanently, and sometimes they haven't had any experience of living outside the UK
Yeah.
more than several weeks at a time. And it certainly isn't unheard of for people 2 or 3 months later to put the house back on the market and want to come back to the UK.
Yeah.
Or it's people feel like they hadn't made the right decision. Whilst this isn't a permanent relocation for you, what stopped you from coming home after 2 months because you missed it, or coming home after 4 months? Not that you're that type of person anyway, but
Yeah.
like you say,
I
you've
think
kept the planning up,
just because
making
I
sure
know,
you've got
like,
something to look forward to and to do, and to never.
yeah, you've got to have something going on. Like, you've got to have a decent weekend coming up. Otherwise, you'll just be moping around, dreaming of eating roast dinners and like hanging out with your friends. Like, you do have to have. Like, you've also got to think like, I'm probably never coming back here, like, or at least not for a long time. And it's never going to be this accessible for me just to go and do like 8-9 months in another country. So I've always had that like constantly in the back of my mind, just like I've got to seize the day almost, like, and enjoy it.
Yeah. So when do you leave Canada for Thailand?
September the 2nd, our flight is booked. Because we were going to stay until October here and then come straight home. But I thought, I really like, as if this year hasn't been epic enough, I need to just have that one last little thing just to top it off. And I was looking on Google Flights, and September's the off season in Thailand. It's the monsoon season. So the flight's so cheap. We got a one-way flight. I think it was $450, which
Really?
is
Wow. But then
it's like 250 quid. Like, it's not a lot of money to go to Thailand, really.
because you would fly west, wouldn't you? Or
It's kind of like a diagonally down, like a southwest kind of vibe.
If you were to fly one minute, you'd be going
It's the other way to what we go at home.
than what we would from. And I should imagine you'd probably keep going that direction when you come home as well.
Oh, I don't know. I've not looked that far into it, but I probably will, yeah. But I think they're.
Sorry, go on.
I think in Thailand, they're a good 14 hours ahead of here. So I think
I think it goes between 12 and 14, I think, actually.
I think by the time we get there, I'm not going to know what's going on, like time difference wise and stuff.
Just sticking around for 3 weeks in Thailand, doing a week in Cambodia. Did I hear you right?
Yeah, I think loosely about a month in Thailand, maybe a little bit less, and then maybe a week to a few days in Cambodia, because there's only a few things there that appeal to me.
Is that going to be a non-working holiday?
Oh yeah, there'll be no working there. Definitely not. It's so cheap there.
You can make money last a little bit longer than I should imagine you can in Vancouver.
From what we've seen, yeah, like you definitely can. I think your average meal out is about probably £1 or £2.
Yeah, the one thing I find, give you a tip regards to food, because when you're looking through the menu and you see the prices are like £1, you get this subconscious
I need 10 of them.
reaction. You think it's a tapas. You think, well, if that's only
Okay.
can't be that small. So you sort of pick 2 or 3 things, and they bring out 4 main meals, and you're Christ, if I don't eat this, they're going to be offended if I don't eat it all.
Well, I like to eat, so that sounds pretty good to me.
So what if you were to do this again with all the knowledge you had now?
Yep.
Would there be anything? Would you approach it differently?
Probably not. No, I don't think so. I think if I went to another country, it would be a similar experience in terms of coming here and setting up and researching and stuff, because everywhere's different, isn't it? So I'd probably be here. I was more surprised. I was very surprised by the culture difference. So I think next time I'd just take that more in my stride.
What do you mean by culture difference?
It's just different, you know. Like I get paid in checks. How weird's that? Like that doesn't happen at home, does it? You don't get given a physical.
Yeah.
That to me is bizarre. It's archaic almost to get given a paper check. You talk about what's one of those? I think they are slowly rolling it out, but a lot of
your signal's gone a little bit, mate.
what else is different? The tip culture, like I mentioned, like that's again at home, like you a lot of people will tip, but say that again, sorry.
So you'd cut out a little.
There you go.
You were speaking there, but I think I picked up most of it. So yeah, sorry, we're talking about culture. So you get paid in checks, which is rather strange. So there's no direct to bank account. Is that the same for Claude as well?
I think she does get direct to bank actually, but I think that's a bit of a rarity. Like a lot of, I might be wrong, but a lot of bosses will pay like paper checks, which is just insane. I think like that's something the UK probably got out of 20 years ago, maybe even longer. I don't really know.
Well, that
certainly before I was working, anyway. It's almost like no one writes a check anymore, do they? Really?
And what else culture-wise?
The tip culture is massive here. If you didn't leave a tip in a restaurant, the server would probably think like, "What have I done wrong?" Like they'd think you were leaving really angry if you didn't leave a tip. Like it's customary to leave between like 15 and 20%, which is quite a lot. Like it can be. Like you'll see the prices and you go, "Oh yeah, that's cheap." And they also add tax on, like 2 separate taxes. You've got the PST and the GST. I think the PST is like provincial sales tax. So each province you're in has a different tax rate. So if you go in a shop, you'll see the price on the shelf. That isn't what you're going to pay when you get to the till. When you get to the till, you scan it, and then they add on these 2 taxes. And depending on what it is, so if it's alcohol, then it's more. Food, I don't think they tax, but like clothing, other stuff is all taxed. Like they add that
So
on.
you think you're getting a bargain?
Oh yeah, you're like, God, this is well cheap.
Well, that works. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just strange. It's the same in America. They do that too. I guess because it's so big here, and British Columbia is bigger than the whole of the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So each province is almost like its own separate country.
Mm-hmm.
So they've all got their own
The
separate.
GDP of California is not far off that of the UK.
Okay,
Something along those lines.
that's pretty crazy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I know in Canada though the population is actually pretty tiny, considering it's the second largest country in the world.
Well, most
Um,
uninhabitable unless you're willing to live in a log house, which
yeah,
we'll probably do. But
a lot of the population is along that American border.
Mhm.
Like it's all along that sort of that central line.
Well, I guess the closer you get to that central line, the nearer the equator you are. I suppose the harsher the weather conditions, the less people, the smaller, more sparse the population, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose. I know, like, if you go further up north, the weather can get really bad. But then even just further east, even along that borderline, I think it's called the parallel, the 45th parallel, I think is what that line's called.
Right.
That's a-
Yeah.
Um, even when you go out east, the weather can be terrible in like the winters, like really bad. So it's good that we're west and there's none of that nonsense.
What was the weather like when you got out there? Because you
It
went
was
out in the
warmer
winter,
than
didn't
at
you?
home. Yeah, it was like 5 or 6 degrees most
Really?
days.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in February, March they had a snow dump here, which again they don't really get much snow like in like Metro Vancouver. They get it up on the mountains, but
Mhm.
actually in the city they don't get a lot.
So, what tips would you give to people if I was going to be doing this in January? What advice would you give to anyone who's going to go and
Save
spend six
save as
months in Vancouver?
much
But also,
money as you
if,
can.
save as much money as you can. Yeah.
Definitely. Commitments like don't come away with any commitments. Like pay off your credit cards, overdrafts, any loans you have. Um, I actually came out here still owing. It was like a few £100. Just I got a camera on finance like last year. That was doable because I had some money sat in the bank, and obviously I was working when I was here. But the less commitments you have back home, the better. Definitely.
So, what's your plan when you get back?
Oh, I
Or
don't know, man.
putting too much thought into now?
I do think about that a lot. I think like, oh, I've got to find a job again. I've got to get a car because I don't have a car anymore at home. Um, it does plague the mind a little bit from time to time, but then you think, forget about it. Like I came here with, £6,000 and made it work. Okay, I won't have that when I get home, nowhere near that, but it's at home you have the support network of like friends and family, so you can, we'll be moving back in with my parents for a little while until we're set up again. So I'm not too worried.
So, is it? Have you discovered yourself?
It's I don't know. It's kind of cliche. Like I wouldn't say I've discovered. I'm still the same person. I'm always going to be me. I'm very secure in who I am. I have been for quite a while. I'd definitely say I'm less hateful, probably. Like I may not come across it, but I do bear a grudge. Like um, throughout my life, I've always had instances where I've fallen out with someone. I've like, that's it. I hate this person. I can't stand them. Like I've let go of all of that now, and I'm not. Life's too short, isn't it?
Where was the turning point there?
I don't know. I think it's just because I'm so far removed from everything. Like physically, I'm 5,000 miles away, and
Mm-hmm.
it's hard. It's hard not to think about that mentally too.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, no grudges anymore, man.
So, even though you're 2 months, just over 2 months from leaving,
hmm
how would you describe your time there? How would you like to summarize it
How would I summarize it? That is a tough one.
compared to why you went out, what you were expecting, what you experienced, how you felt before, how you feel now, how you see your life going from here. Just
It's been awesome. Like it's
Mhm.
the
Mate, the
experience of a
photographs have looked
lifetime.
amazing. I mean, you've seen some amazing
Thank
things.
you. Yeah, no, it is amazing. I'll never come anywhere quite like this again. I don't think. Um, it's truly one of a kind.
Mhm.
Even like most times, I drive like over out of the city into the North Shore Mountains. I usually think like, man, this is amazing. Like it's so good to have that. Like I love hiking and stuff. Like I
Mhm.
have done for quite a few years, and in England it's not as accessible. Like if you want a decent hike, you're looking at a good 4 or 5 hour drive. Whereas here, half an hour and I'm there. So that to me is brilliant. So I'm trying to make the most out of that.
Mhm.
But it's also been stressful. Like it really has. And you do get, I get homesick. Um, I find certain things trigger it. So the other week, I have had like a jar of Marmite in the cupboard for a while, and I made myself a Marmite sandwich for work. And I sat there eating it, and I was like, man, I miss home. That like just triggered it.
They banned Marmite in America.
I think there's something in it that they don't like. I'm not sure what it is, but
Mm.
there's some ingredient that you can get it here still.
Mhm.
Expensive. It was about $8 that I paid. So like £4 or £5 for like a little diddy jar, but it's worth it. Got to have your Marmite.
So yeah, so did homesickness kick in quite quick?
It was almost
Have you
immediately.
have you
When I
experienced it before? Because if you've only been away from home for 2 weeks, then
I am a bit of like a home hen, as one of my friends calls it. I
Mm.
do like home. I love my country. Quite patriotic, and I love my family and my friends. But this was just something I had to go and do. Like
Mhm.
it's worth that feeling. And all you have to do, like when you are feeling homesick, is just look around you and you think, wow, oh, this is awesome. But yeah, for me, it was when I was getting the lift to the airport, like with my parents and my sister, like, it just felt like it wasn't real, or like I was going on holiday.
Mhm.
Obviously, it was sad, and we all cried and that, like when we said our goodbyes. But then it was when once we got here, gone to bed, woke up the next day, I was like, oh, I'm actually doing it.
Where am
But
I?
then
What am I
it
doing?
kind of like hit in, and I do remember thinking, I don't know if I can go the distance. Like, I don't think I'm going to last till October. Um,
So when were you having those thoughts? Like almost straight away?
yeah, straight away, man. Like the first morning, like just straight away, just doubts. Like, oh, I
Really?
can't do this. Yeah,
Mm.
before I'd even left, like, because we stayed in an Airbnb for 2 months.
Mhm.
So before we'd even left that in the morning and explored, it was all a bit crazy. But I'll never forget that feeling. Like, or either like when we did leave and went on our first sort of like little like looking around, I just felt like an alien, like I didn't belong whatsoever.
You do that here in England.
Well, yeah, that's true.
But how long did it take? How long did it take, and what did it take for those feelings to subside?
I've never truly shaken that feeling.
Hmm.
Uh, I knew instantly that I'm not the kind of person to move somewhere permanently, like out of the country. So
Hmm.
I knew instantly like I could never live here long term.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't know. Like I think when you get into it and you start doing little trips and seeing what the area actually has to offer, then you're like, yeah, this is cool. But it's still always there, like for me anyway, niggling away at the back of my mind, like that it's different. And almost every day, someone will hear you talk and they'll be like, "Oh, where are you from? Oh, you're from Australia. Oh, what's that accent?" Like almost every day, and they'll want to talk about it, which is kind of cool. You almost feel a
Yeah.
bit safe
So they're
that way.
quite welcoming.
Everyone wants to talk.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yeah, some are, some aren't. Like they're very outspoken here, which obviously the English we're quite reserved, aren't we?
Hmm.
Uh, where it's not unusual to be on a bus and you'll hear two strangers talking about a book one of them's reading, which is pretty cool. Like I'd never seen that before, really. Like if you get on the tube in London, everyone just looks at the ground, ignoring
Yeah,
everyone.
I don't like that. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I was in London once, and this guy got on the tube, and he fell flat on his face, and no one even looked up. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, I'm not trying to big myself up here, but I was like, "Oh, you okay?" And like helped him up. No one even looks like up from their papers. That they're just so ingrained in like their daily commute. Like, don't look at anyone, don't talk to anyone. Like that, I was actually quite shocked by that.
Yeah. Well, I have this theory about individualism, how we all are feeling empowered to do things on our own, live on our own, do things on our own, and
Mhm.
how we're moving away from a social community,
Yeah,
and how that's just been on the rise for the last couple of decades, even more so the last 10 years with social media.
yeah. To the advent of
Showing.
smartphone, and social media, and such.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably something that I took away. Every other country that I've been to, I found them to be a lot more friendly, a lot more open, a lot more outspoken, a lot more
Yeah,
patient, a lot more patient, definitely patient um, with us than we are with them. You know, when somebody stops and asks you for direction, but they got a funny accent or they haven't pronounced
yeah.
it properly. I mean, I'm not speaking for myself necessarily, um,
Mm.
but then I think I've mentioned this to some other Brits before, and they've agreed that that's not all Brits. I think in Brits, up if you were to go up north, sort of around Newcastle, Manchester, Yorkshire, I should imagine that
They
would
have a
be
reputation of
less.
being warmer.
It's definitely London area, the southeast.
Yeah,
I think it's more prevalent.
everyone's too. They're just too caught up in their rat race. I think
Hmm.
it's such a. I don't know how to word it. Like, everyone's very career orientated, aren't they? Like, if you haven't got a career, you're nothing. You're nobody. You know, if you're not making good money, you're worthless. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it certainly feels like that at times. If you're not following this path that everyone else is, then you're doing something wrong, you know?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, there's definitely a lot of that, I think, at home, I think, particularly in London.
Hmm.
It's, which is one of the reasons I've never really liked it, like, to be honest. It's too rush, 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 rush.
So what do you miss the most about home?
Roast dinners, man, without a
Really,
doubt.
really,
Yeah.
really.
Oh, mate, yeah. I wake up sometimes at 2, 3 in the morning and go, "Oh, I need a roast." And that is no lie.
So they don't serve them. You can't. They won't. You don't see a Sunday roast sign up on any of the
Oh,
local bars.
no, no, no. You could probably make one, but it wouldn't taste right because it's going to
Really.
be like American ingredients. And the cheese here is terrible. Like, it's awful.
I was
You
gonna
know,
say,
like
wait,
those
America.
processed Kraft single cheeses.
Yeah,
It's all like that, but just a block of it. And like,
really.
you can buy cheddar, but it's not
If,
good. It's no Cathedral City, mate.
no.
When I first got here and we went to a supermarket, I was trying to find semi-skimmed milk, but it's all like it's called 2%. That's what semi-skimmed milk is.
Right. Yeah.
Like 4%, I think, is full fat, and well, like with their coffee, they have cream, like coffee cream, but it's 18% fat, so like it's real thick.
Right.
Uh,
Wow.
they don't like you can get milk with your coffee here, but it's just not as it's done. Yeah, we walked into the supermarket. I was looking at these milks for ages, and I ended up going up to a member of staff, and I was like, "Excuse me, mate, which one's semi-skimmed?" And I'll just never forget the look. Like, he was like, "What's wrong with you?"
What the hell is semi-skimmed? What are you
Yeah,
talking?
he was like, "The pink one, the 2%." Just little
Right.
things like that, so different.
Well, my love, I look forward to you getting back, obviously, but
Yeah,
just
no, it'd be good. I
keep
look
lapping
forward
it
to it.
up. I'd love to go and do something like that. I'm 36 now, with a
Yeah.
mortgage and debt still surrounding every orifice of my financial life.
It's
Um,
still doable. It's just harder when you're older, isn't it? I
it
think
is, and there
got
are.
mortgage stuff.
It's certainly going to be something that you can do. I think that it would be done before you have kids, or it'll be when your
Yeah.
kids move
You're
out
older.
at age 12.
Yeah, definitely.
But well, I'm glad we had this conversation because I wanted to find out a
man,
little bit more,
sure.
and I'm naturally curious anyway about these sorts of things.
I could go on forever and ever about the differences and experiences and stuff. Like, it's just been that. Certainly a lot different to what I thought. I think.
what are the biggest differences?
Biggest differences. I don't know. It becomes like when you're not like traveling in that, it's normal life. If you know what I mean. Like you work and you come home and you go to bed and you work and you come home and you go to bed. Like you're still doing that. You're just doing it somewhere different, which is sort of like if you actually stopped and thought, I'd probably think I wasn't told this dream. Like what's going on? So that is different. But I do honestly think if you were a millionaire and you came here and traveled, you wouldn't experience it. Like you wouldn't get to know it intimately. Like if you didn't work, like because you wouldn't social. You wouldn't be part of like the economy. You wouldn't socialize as much with like the people. The guy I work with is born and bred Vancouver, and he's taught me so much. Like his knowledge of the area is insane. I'd never have the benefit of that if I had. Say if I came here with like 40 grand and I could take the whole year off, you wouldn't get that benefit at all. You'd just be a tourist,
Yeah, it's a bit like when I did my bike rides through Italy and France, going to the small little villages. If you spend 2 weeks in a penthouse villa in Nice, and you get your mate to go down to the supermarket for you, sort of thing. You really want to meet. I mean, some of the most fascinating places that I came across were some of the most grubbiest places that I went across. They're not places you would find tourists. I would have been the only Brit that had gone through there in decades, maybe ever, perhaps. And they were the areas that I seem to remember more than.
And you'll find they're like the nicest people, like the warmest and welcoming. We stopped in this little. Apparently, it was a city. It was called Forks, and it was in Washington. And they had a sign up saying their population was like 3,500. So I don't know how it could be classed as a city. I did actually Google it, and it is a city. And we drove through like the central part of it where the shops are, and we stopped, and they had a Shell garage, and inside the Shell garage was a Mexican cantina. I'd never seen a Shell garage with just like a Mexican grill like in there, and people were ordering takeout and stuff. And me and Claude were looking like we're just buying crisps and a drink and stuff. And we were talking like, oh, what do you fancy, all this? And I could see one of the workers. They obviously never get like English people going through. She was like stocking the shelves, and she was like spying on us. I could see like her eyes in between like these two bags of crisps, like just watching us talk. That was such a funny experience. Yeah, I guess they're not used to it at all.
What do you say that was? Washington?
Yeah.
What, American Washington or Washington, Canada?
No, America.
So how many different places have you been to in the US?
Just Oregon and Washington.
Yeah.
They're huge states, though. Like, well, the States is massive. I know it's smaller than Canada, but it seems a bit more spaced out.
Did you see the White House?
No, that's the White House is in Washington D.C., which is.
Oh, is there a difference between Washington and Washington D.C.?
Yeah, so you got Washington State, which is the one where Seattle is, just below Vancouver, and Washington D.C. is Washington District of Columbia. So it's in the state of Columbia, which is way further east. So yeah.
So what have you got left on? What are you going to do between now and when you leave in September? So you got 2 months left. You're going to try and cram as much in as humanly possible, obviously.
Well, I'm going to keep I'll definitely be hiking most weekends. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
We've got a trip to the Rockies in 2 weeks' time. We're going to be in Banff and Lake Louise. If you don't know about Banff, Google it. It looks beautiful. Banff National Park. I think, unfortunately, it's fallen foul to, well, it's beginning to fall foul to over-tourism. Obviously, the people that live there, they need the money to survive, but there's also a distinct lack of housing thanks to like Airbnb and things like that.
Really? Yeah.
Because it's so beautiful, but it doesn't have the infrastructure around it to support it. So yeah, we're going to go and contribute to the over tourism, but I don't think I don't think I could come here and not go to Banff. Like, it's one of the postcard destinations, if you will.
Really? How do you spell that? And I'll have a look at it.
Banff.
Banff. Right.
It's all like mountains and glacial lakes. And
Yeah. Doesn't look too dissimilar to some of the places that you've been already. Sort of.
I think British Columbia. I think a lot of places in Canada get overlooked for Banff. Like when people come here. So I'm glad we spent the bulk of our time like where we have and seen around where we are more. There's a ton of things I'd love to do here, but a lifetime's not long enough to fit it all in. So as long as you're happy when it's over with what you've done, then all's well, and I'm pretty sure we will be. So,
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like you have any, not regrets, but you feel like filling up your time and keeping yourself busy. You knew you were going to be working, which
yeah.
going to be unavailable to do things typically during the week anyway. But
Yeah. I'm lucky with where I work is they're like so lax. If I want a day off in the week, I can just take one. So that is good. But if you have too many of them, you obviously don't get much money. So you got to find the balance. The thing with like, I don't know, it's really hard like with the money, because you come here and you've got that little pot that you can fall back on, and you do see it start to dwindle, and then you think, oh no, I can't do this because of money. And then you also think, I'm only here once. Like I saved this money to do this, so why can't I go and drop $200-300 and go over there for the day or whatever, you know? So it's kind of like a juggling act, I guess.
could you survive out there doing what you're doing what Claude's doing? Could you stay out there? Could you last another 2 years earning the money you're earning, paying the rent, and having quite an active schedule at the
You'd be
weekend?
living paycheck to paycheck, I think, like in our jobs, yeah. We spoke to a few people that have come out and done similar things, and they're leaving with debt, like because they want to do all these things and experience it all, but like it's expensive here, like, and you don't get paid enough, unfortunately. It's just the way of it. But there is, if you like hiking, it doesn't cost anything to go. Like just put the fuel in the car or grab a bus. Like so many trails are accessible by bus and stuff here. So you can go and have a day out for a negligible cost. Like if you like hiking.
Have you've been on a bus? Because you mentioned a lady that was having, two people that were talking about a book. But what is the transport system like in general?
It's actually really good.
I'm guessing they have underground or subway.
Yeah, they have the Sky Train. It's called
SkyTrain. Is that over?
Well, in parts, yeah. It's on like a bridge. You see it, but then it also goes underground too. Wow. It's really good actually. It doesn't connect. Like, so if we want to go to our closest SkyTrain terminal, we have to get like a 20-minute bus first. So the SkyTrain doesn't connect everywhere, but the buses and the SkyTrain's good, and it's actually really cheap, which is what I was quite surprised by. Every time you get on a bus, if you've got a Compass card, which is their Oyster card, so you load it up as you would an Oyster card, you just tap it on your way into the bus, and it takes $2.40 out, and that's all it costs. whether you go one stop or whether you go 20. It's $2.40.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And so with the trains, you tap in, and then you can travel on the trains for, I think it's an hour and a half for like $2.40. So it is pretty good, like for that. Better than London.
Mhm.
Obviously the tube is amazing, like because it connects everywhere in London, doesn't it? Really,
Mhm.
but it's just expensive. Yeah, and obviously everyone's got grievances against our actual rail. That's one thing they don't have here. They don't have like a rail system like for the public to get on in between these big cities.
Mhm.
I think they've got one. Well, there's a few, but they do like the epic, like through the Rockies and stuff, and it costs you thousands to go on it. It's like a
Oh, wow.
touristy thing to do.
You couldn't
It's
hop
not.
to Seattle.
You can actually get the Amtrak to Seattle,
Mhm.
but if I wanted to go from where I am, Vancouver to Calgary, you couldn't do it by train. It would be coach, drive, or plane.
Well, it's probably because the land isn't flat enough, and I suppose the cost of having
Yeah,
to tunnel your way through mountains. Because here in England, I can't think of anywhere that you couldn't get to by train.
yeah. There's not many places, is
I
there?
can't.
But they do have they have the freight trains that are like 2 or 3 miles long. Like they do have them.
When you run up behind them like they do on the old cowboy film, you just jump into one of the
Jump
carriages.
on. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think they're pretty hot on that. You're getting a lot of trouble if you did that.
and so
A
they
lot
have.
of-
What's the guns like out there? The police have guns, but I think the
Yep,
first time I
police
saw.
have gun, but they have gun control similar to what we'd have.
Mhm.
You can have a gun, but you need to have a license and a reason here. Like you or I, well, not you or I, because we're not residents here. But if you were a Canadian citizen and you just fancied a gun, you couldn't just go to a shop and buy one. You'd have to have you'd have to be like a member of a gun club, or you'd have to be a farmer or hunter or something like that. Some reason to have
We just lie.
it. I don't know. I don't know like a crazy amount about it, but it
No, I
is
don't know the
certainly
difference
not like
between
in America.
the American and the Canadian gun cultures, and
Yeah, there are the fanatics that think it's wrong. There's too much gun control. There are the people that like that, but
you're real conservatives.
uh,
You're really old-fashioned types.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but then even the younger people, some people do want guns for whatever reason. It's just what they like, I suppose.
Different culture. We were never brought up with them. We never really had
Yeah, exactly.
guns here, so we don't know. We may
Yeah.
look the same if we were born over there.
Oh, I don't know. Well, you never will know, will you? I guess it's
No,
easy to say you wouldn't be, but if it's not indoctrinated in you, you're not going to feel like that, are you? You're
no.
not going to be able to take on that view, I guess.
Mate, it's been a good conversation.
Yeah, man, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. So it's what, 12:30. 1.
It is. Yeah, it's
1:30.
half one. What is
So
it there? Half
it's
9.
9:30 p.m.
Nice.
Why don't you go and cook yourself a roast dinner? Where's Claude? She at work.
Yeah, she's just gone to work, mate, to the old sports bar.
What time does she finish?
I don't know. They don't really give her a set time. It's usually you'll start at this time and it will be like 11 till slow or 5 till slow. So when it gets quiet, uh, yeah, but they love their sports here, dude. Like they're insane. Like hockey and stuff. Like they go mad for hockey. Like it's quite funny. It's like their football, I guess.
Does Claude like doing what she's doing? Is she all right?
Yeah, I think so. In terms of like she meets so many people there, like way more than I do in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely gets to like see more of like the residents and that and get to know them. Like they have their regulars. I think she enjoys that aspect of it, but it can also get really busy, which I don't think would be fun,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest. It's definitely different. to what she's known before, working in like a restaurant. They're more. So you get a lot of people that just go there just for drinks and stuff and like bar snacks.
Watch a bit of sport.
Watch the old sport, mate. I think they've got about 5 or 6 TVs in there, each playing like something different. So there'll be like baseball on one, hockey on another, basketball on the next, American football. Like
None of which we know anything about unless you've been following it back in the UK.
When we were in America, I went to a bar on my own because Claude was tired and I fancied a pint. So I went to a bar next door and they had the baseball on the TV. I just had no idea what was going on, like at all. But it was quite fun. Like, it was a good experience. Like, just sat there with all the locals shouting and cheering for their teams.
Not just rounders for adults.
I think so, yeah.
Something along those lines.
The Rounders was awesome. I used to love that.
Mate, right. We'll leave it there.
Yeah, man. I'll let you get off.
Yeah, mate. It's been good chatting, and
Definitely.
well, maybe we'll have a chat when you're back here, because I'd like to know about Cambodia and Thailand.
Yeah, man.
To see how that all went. Cambodia is somewhere that I still really want to go to. I've been to Thailand.
Okay, cool.
I can't say that I've done Thailand, but I spent 2 weeks there, and would like to hear about that trip as and when it happens. So,
Oh, I look forward to seeing you, mate.
don't stress yourself out too much this Sunday.
Nah, I won't.
Back to
Never
work.
will. Oh no, it's a long weekend here, mate. Canada Day tomorrow.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
So you're not working?
Canada Day. Oh, no work on Canada Day.
Is Claude working tomorrow?
No, she's off too, actually. So gotta find something to do.
Well, get another blog sent round. Get some more pictures sent round. Or
we'll do.
I'll feature some of your photographs in this video.
Oh, awesome! Yeah,
I'll give you a big shout out to my 5 subscribers.
One of them's me,
and one of them's you. Happy days.
Yeah, I appreciate that, dude.
Dedicated follower.
That's it, mate.
Okay, mate.
Okay, dude. Speak soon.
Yeah. Take care of yourself.
Bye.
Ta-da, mate.